Alright dudes, it's raining and I can't do any painting, and I've got everything I need to do to the stuff in the shop done today, and I'm bored. Right now it's not raining hard enough that I can't stand out here, but it's raining hard enough that I can't paint. So I'm going to make a little video to help you guys out, just tell you about something, and what I want to talk to you about today is central vent systems. And as soon as I say that, the rain picks up a bit. We'll see how long this lasts. If you've had an M35 truck for any length of time, you've no doubt got it out on the highway on a short jaunt and come back with some driveline component leaking, whether it be a hub seal on an axle, or the transfer case, or the transmission. Those spring-loaded vents on them, and let me walk over and show you what I'm talking about, just in case you're not familiar with them. We'll go over here and which vehicle are we going to stick ourselves under? We're going to go into the front of this truck because it doesn't have an engine in it, so it's easy to get to. Plus, it gets me out of the rain for a second. Oh, you know what? There's one right here. This little dealie right here. This is a spring-loaded driveline component vent. And you see it's got a spring that pushes it up. But there's also a rubber washer inside of there. And the problem with this is, well, first of all, the intended design of this was that if you were to go in water that covers the vent, the pressure of the water on the outside pushes this closed because it's very lightly spring-loaded. And then water can't get in because it seals it against that rubber washer. Now that's a great idea in theory. The problem with it is when it's venting, especially if you get out and you've got a cold driveline component, whether it's axle or whatever, and you run it down the highway and you get up to speed and it gets hot fast, you get oil vapor coming out of that, and sometimes actual liquid oil in small amounts. So you get oil in that, and it's moving around, and it's bobbling around, and you get some dust in that, especially like when it cools down or when it's thermal cycling, like if you run through some water and get water on the case, it cools down a little bit, it'll suck a little air in, it'll pull dust in, and eventually you get a conglomeration of dust and oil, and it solidifies into a grease packing, and it clogs this up or sticks it shut, and then you have no more vent. So what happens then? Well, when you get out on the road and you get to moving, your transmission or your transfer case or your front axle, and hey, actually this one looks like it was recently replaced, but see, you've already got some oily residue on the outside there. Yeah, anyway, that's my point about them. Those suck. Those cause more leaks than bad seals do, okay? In fact, if you've got a component leaking, whatever it is, an axle, transmission, transfer case, the first thing I would do is get rid of that. And what you want to do with these trucks is not just take it out, and you don't just want to use a barbed fitting and a piece of rubber hose either. What you do is you run a central vent system. And a central vent system ties all your driveline components together, and it comes out in one central point. Generally, you want to attach it to your intake, your breather box, wherever it is. And you know, on a deuce, you can attach it wherever you want, whether it's the 1-inch line there where you have your compressor intake, or where you should have your compressor intake plumbed to, or you know, you can do away with your filter minder and you can attach it to that right there, or you can drill a hole and use another connector, or tab it, do whatever you want. It's plumbing, it's easy. You can attach it to your breather in many different ways, so that's not important. What is important is actually running the system, and I want to show you a little bit about how to do that. Now bear in mind, I'm redoing my system, okay? I told you in a previous video that I did mine quite a while ago, and I did it all in 1/4-inch DOT line, and it just doesn't flow enough volume when I actually get out on the highway and I'm running and things are getting real hot. It doesn't flow enough air out, and I end up with leaks. So I'm upsizing mine to 3/8 line, and I'd suggest if you're going to do this project, you start out that way. Just go ahead and do it the right way, or even 1/2 inch if you want to run up to that. I would do my legs from my components to the frame in 3/8 and then do like a 1/2 inch trunk line along the frame if you're going to do it that way. But I think 3/8 overall is enough. So what we want to do is we want to use a good, it's a 1/8 NPT to what would be 3/8 NPT compression fitting, and then you can use zip ties, but I used stainless steel safety wire to secure mine all along the way. That way I know it's not going to rust or break and the line isn't going to be dragging. And what I did is on the rear, I just followed the brake lines up to the middle point on the above the center trunnion where they meet, and I did a 3-way connector, and I came off at it. Let's see, yeah, you can see it better from over here. That's what I did. I did exactly the same thing that the engineers did with the brake lines. I just followed it. Then I came up and I came behind the air tanks and over across the cross member here in front of the air tanks, and then up beside the transfer case. And well, my floor pan is here now, but down from the top of the transfer case to another 3-way on the frame here. Same thing with the transmission down there to another 3-way. And then I've already removed this from the front axle, but let's get in here to, oh yeah, so I came forward with the 1/4 inch line, and this was the junction for the transmission, and I came forward to here, and I had another 3-way splitter right here, and came off the front axle, followed the brake line up, followed it around all the way forward to the 3-way here, and then I went up with one central line up to the firewall here. I just had it looped around. I never actually put it onto my air box. So doing that, if you use the proper size line, it will drastically cut down, if not entirely do away with any driveline component leaks you have. Granted, they have to be non-seal related. If you haven't replaced your seals on the component in question and it's leaking, well, then it very well may be a bad seal. But if you have replaced the seals, like say you put all 3 new input and output seals on the transfer case, or you do 2 new pinion seals on the axle and 2 new hub seals, and you get out on the highway, and the first time you get out, you come back and it's pouring gear oil out of one of them seals, well, it's probably your vent. So that's my suggestion. Don't bother with replacing the little spring-loaded dealies. They suck. Unless you're making your truck a showpiece, you know, a restoration for you know, MVPA competitions and stuff like that. I wouldn't, you know, be practical. But that's my thoughts on the matter. So, you know, if you've got any other suggestions, go ahead and post them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. There's always more than one way to do things. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, Big Mike's Motor Pool. Mike Verrilli's a great guy, and he's got all the parts you need. And like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Laters.